So again, for those of you playing at home, it is the 13th today, all day. We are reviewing some Chapter 1 stuff we need to finish. After we get done with the notes, I want to take questions from the practice work. So whatever issues you're having on the Schoology practice work, we will then review those. But we have two friends that we want to compare. Now, again, I want to split the room. You guys do the first friend here, color-coded in yellow. And you guys over here primarily do the green, but then when you get done with your dude or your person, do the other one if you have time. But you guys focus on yellow, you guys focus on green. Ladies in the back, I'd probably join up with yellow, there's not very many. And you can discuss with your neighbors. Check with what they're doing. We want to figure out speed. When we talk about speed, are we going to deal with miles over hours, or are we going to deal hours over miles? Which ratio or which rate are we going to use? Do we do time first in the division or time second in the division? Casey? Second. We want miles per hour. We almost always put time on the bottom. Did anybody watch My Curb is Leaking?
I did.
My Ed Puzzle.
I did the Ed Puzzle.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So, there are two other Ed puzzles up on Schoology. Please get to those as you have a chance. They're not like an assignment. They're not really for a grade. So, FYI, I'm not handing back any Chapter 6 stuff because that's quarter 2. So, if you turn in, sweet, I'm hanging on to it because I grades are not in map yet. Because I didn't want to put quarter 2 grades in yet. It freaked some people out. Mr. Capillo did put quarter 2 grades in. So if you go on map and your button's red now, click on it and look at what it is. It's probably, hopefully for most of you, now showing quarter 2 work. But if it's red with quarter 1 work, then you may or may not be going on Discovery Day. Can I help you, dude? What do you need? Or I think I gotta get you one out of my binder. I don't know why we ran out of those so quickly. So you should be doing your miles divided by your hours. If you're on the left side, you're doing yellow. If you're on, well, if you're left, you're doing yellow. If you're on the right side, you're doing green. There you go, sir. Yeah, if you finish up with yours, go ahead and do the other one. It's on your notes. These are 1-4 on the back. The very last thing that we didn't get to. Go get your notes. You need to come to class with your materials. You need to be ready to learn. Your math notes come to class with you. Maylee, what do you need? These aren't yesterday's. They're 2 days ago. We're in 1-4. I'll get you 1-5, but you need to be looking 1-4 right now. All the notes are printable in Schoology too. So if you lose them and you don't want to admit it to me, get on a library computer and print out the PDF. And the third point up on the chalkboard, if you have anything showing up in math, especially practice work, that doesn't seem right, like if you have a practice showing as a missing or a check minus, and you know you've actually done it now and you're above an 80%, email me, because that's the most effective way to get your grade changed. I will not delete emails till I take care of it. So I actually have a lot of emails in my inbox because some of them are year-long stuff. But when you email me about your practice, I will not get rid, and I want to delete emails. It's good to clear them out. I will take care of it before I delete that email. So that's the most effective way to get your grades changed. Today, I am going to go through there and try to change whatever grades I see need changed, but grade report goes home this evening. So during AOR extensions today, I would check your grades and email me if you want something changed, if it should be changed. On that side of the room, no. Casey, what would be the first thing we do? Well, how did I set this up? What did I change in my setup?
You changed the mixed number.
Yeah.
To
Exactly. I changed my mixed into an improper, and that was just to make it just a fraction. Then what do we want to do? KCF, so we will keep change flip. Now, anybody else from that side, is there anything I can do here, Bella, to make my life easier? Reduce. Yep, we're not canceling, we're reducing the numbers. So I cross reduce. I can divide them both by 2. And this isn't yours. Okay. Oh. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that should be 7/5. So then I can multiply straight through the top and straight through the bottom, but now I'm using 7 and 2, gives me 14. 1 and 3 gives me 3. Now I don't want to leave this improper since we're going to be comparing how many 3s fit into 12. 4. I meant 14, but I said 12, and I kind of gave away the answer. So it becomes 4 2/3 miles per hour. If you were on this side, please make sure you get that work written down so you have it for comparison. Xavier. No. We always want to use times second. So I had written up here the or when we were discussing which one we choose and why. It's almost always simpler to talk about time as your single unit. So 1 second, 1 minute, 1 hour, whatever that is, because then you can use that more easily to solve problems. If you had hours per mile, it would be a very small amount, because a lot of times if you're on the highway, you can cover a mile in about a minute. So that would be 1/60th hours per mile, which would be a little like weird to work with. Or you could have it 60 miles per hour, which is nicer, easier to work with. So we always do my time second unless we've specifically been told do your time first.
Excuse me, could I please have Brady Cool to the office? Brady?
So we set up miles divided by hours. Then Shane, what do I want to do next? Keep change flip. Can I, Atticus, is there any cross-reducing that can be done? What do you think? Do you think yes or no? You can just make a guess. It's fine. 50-50 chance. So when you look at 5 and 3, can they both be divided by the same thing? When you look at 7 and 1, can they both be divided by the same thing? Well, 1 isn't going to get any smaller, and 5 and 3 are both prime, so no, they don't share any factors. This is as simple as I can get, so I just multiply through. 7 times 3, 21. 5 times 1, how many 5s fit into 21? 4. How many are left over?
1.
Now here's the hard question. Which is faster? 4 2/3 or 4 1/5? Justin? How do you know that?
Well, what I did is I compared them to each other, so I had to find a common denominator. So that reduced the denominator to the numerator.
So if we want to do a direct comparison, I can take my 14/3 and my 21/5. What was your common denominator? 15, right? So I can actually go ahead and rewrite these. How do I get this to my denominator of 15? What do I do in numerator and denominator? Times 5. So 10 times 5 is 50. 4 times 5 is 20, so I get 70 15ths. Compared to what I do over here to get a 15 in the denominator. Times 3, so I get 15 times 3. So, which is higher, 70 or 63? That's another way we can look at it and compare. Now, if you know about your fractions, you know that a fifth is less than half. It's actually 4.2 if I want to write it in decimal form. 2/3, anyone know what the decimal form of 2/3 is? Anybody? Ooh, 0.6 repeating. So, 0.6 is more than 0.2. So that's another way we can compare. Any questions on that one? All right. On your 1-5, we did the board, the boat, did we do the park?
No.
This example on the bottom?
No, you can see
Yeah, I didn't think we did. So we're on 1-5, bottom of the front page. 1-5, bottom of the front page. If the park is 2 1/4 miles away from you, how far would it be to get there and back? What do you think, Abby?
So, how many minutes it would be?
How far do you go if you go to the park and come home? That's how far you go to get to the park. Because the park is that far from your house. Colin?
4.5 miles.
We gotta double it to go there and back to home. So that would be a total distance of 4.5. And they also give that to you right here. But that's on our Tuesday. So we're going to split up Monday and Tuesday. We're going to look at only Monday first. So on Monday, it took you and your dog 18 minutes to get to the park, 24 minutes to get home. You're running both directions. Now, who can make a mathematical argument for why it would take longer to get home than it did to get to there? We went the same distance. Anthony? Ooh, there could be a change in elevation. I didn't even think about that. That's great. Yeah, so and we're getting beyond this, but for a while, grandparents, older people would say, back in my day. And the joke was always we had to walk uphill both ways, which wouldn't really make sense if you walked uphill both ways. Like, did you climb a hill and then go back down? But yeah, if we went downhill on the way there, it's easier. Uphill on the way back might take longer. Why else, CJ? Dog might be tired now. Hayden? You might be tired. If I ran to the park, I'm tired now. I'm not going to run as fast on the way home. So, somebody tried to argue earlier in the week, no, it should take the same amount of time. No, it doesn't. No. Time it takes relates to what? What would change how much time it takes? Izzy? The distance stayed the same. So the distance could, but we know the distance stayed the same. What else could make it take longer? Colin? So rate is the other key thing here. Your rate would be slower here. But if we want to talk about the rate altogether, let's say I ran there and immediately turned around and ran back. How long did it take me total? Well, if it took 18 minutes to get there, 24 minutes to get back, my total amount of time, how much? 42 minutes, right? And I know that the total distance was 4.5 miles. Now let's look at what the question's really asking. On which day did your run take less time? Do we need to solve any math for Monday?
Yes.
Not now. Now that we've gotten our...
Tuesday.
Yeah. Monday, we're good though. We know how long it took us. So we can leave Monday. Tuesday, we know it's 4.5 miles. We know that actually on Tuesday, I had my little fitness watch on and I made sure I ran at the same speed the whole time. Say you're training for a marathon. You ran at 6.25 miles an hour the whole time. How can I figure out the amount of time that it took me? Hayden? So we yesterday looked at our dirt formula. On the back, we were using our dirt formula. And what you should have written down,
Oh yeah. I know.
yeah, distance equals rate times time, but then also we wrote down what time equals. And if you don't have it on the back, you definitely need to put it on the front. If I'm solving for time, what can I divide? You already said it, Hayden. Yep. Distance divided by the rate of travel. So here, that will be my distance, 4.5. I'm going to make this improper because we don't like mixed numbers. So 9/2 divided by, notice I go from vertical division to horizontal division because our horizontal division is easier to work with. I'm going to make this improper again. Not 24, 25. Of course, you forgot to add the 1 on the top. So this is my distance divided by my rate. Then we want to keep change flip because fraction divided by fraction is way too tough if I don't. 9/2 times 4/25. Anyone see it? Shane? Cross reduce 2 and 4. Lily, what do these become? I thought you would raise your hand.
No, I did, but I was gonna say something else.
So I can divide these both by 2. 2 divided by 2 becomes 1. 4 divided by 2 becomes 2. So then, well, sorry, what were you going to say before?
Oh, I was just gonna ask, is there like an actual way that I could do the division?
We're doing it right now without a calculator. It's way too complicated. Like, you can, but it's just really, it's a mess. And it goes to, like, you'd make a visual, kind of, to think it through. But this is really the simplest method. Because, really, if we do it, like, if we do the division, what we really turn into is looking at a multiplication, in a way. Like, we could derive the whole proof process, but it takes a while.
Are we ever gonna have to learn that?
No. So then, straight across top, straight across bottom, Abby, what do you get?
It becomes 18/25.
Now, wait a minute.
It does.
That seems rather weird for an amount of time.
Exactly.
That's 18/25. What's your label?
Miles per hour.
If we're solving for time, time is given in miles per hour.
Miles divided by hour. Miles.
So if my distance involved miles
Miles per minute.
and hours, and my rate involved hours, this actually, because the hours here were in the denominator, this really becomes hours.
Hours per mile.
Sorry, and I wrote that wrong. The top would have been your hour, or sorry, the top would have been just miles. The bottom is miles per hour, but actually because it's per hour, that would flip up to the top, the miles cancel out. The answer becomes hours. How do I take hours and make it minutes? Is it equal to 60? Will I get more minutes than hours or less minutes than hours? Justin? So think about half of an hour. How many minutes are half of an hour? 30, right? So going from hours to minutes, we get bigger. So we take our hours, multiply it by 60.
Isn't it because you're breaking it down so it becomes more?
So I'm going to show you guys the conversion, like what we're actually doing.
It's like an hour is like 60 minutes, but when you break it down by minutes, it's like 30 by 30. Yeah. I know, I'm really confused.
18/25. So we had 18/25, and really the unit belongs to the top.
Make
So then I multiply by the conversion factor of 60 minutes over 1 hour so that the hours on top and bottom cancel. This could actually cross-reduce, but if we didn't cross-reduce, just because we have been mainly cross-reducing and we haven't done much without, I would do 18 times 60, which gives me 1,080 over 25. Those labels would have canceled, so I get minutes now. But when I simplify this and do the division, I get 43.2, and now my label is in minutes. So which day were you faster? Or sorry, which day does it take less time? Andrew? Which day does it take less time? And by how much? What's your difference? 1.2 minutes. So, that's really not that big of a difference. Because if you ran on Monday and then ran on Tuesday, you're bound to probably be slower on Tuesday because you're a little tired from Monday. You're shaking your head. Why are you shaking your head? I didn't know if you were disagreeing. Like, no, I run faster on day 2. Now, the only other argument somebody made once was, well, what if I was being chased on the second day? Well, okay. Yeah. There's always the what ifs that we can ask. And you're in middle school, so you're really good at that. We did not do this table, right? All right, look at the table. Look at our table. It's on the back. We're still on 1.5. On the back of 1.5. You and your friends are making 4 batches of soup. Let's say for Phoenix Fair, you decide to sell soup. Some people sell food that you literally eat there. So, you each want to make the exact same soup. So, your ingredient proportions, the amount of which you use, has to stay consistent. But you each decide to make a different amount of total soup. So, whoever is person D decided to make 18 cups, but we don't know how much broth and how much rice. Person C, we know how much rice they used, but we don't know anything else. Person B, we know their broth and rice. And person A, we only know broth. So crap. If I'm looking at this table, let's say you had this as a test question, and it said this table shows a proportional relationship, or this table all has the same ratios, or whatever it says, so that they all have to be similar. Fill it in. Which line, or which column, which row or column is stand, row is across, would you look at to start solving first? Which, just test-taking skills, which here is easiest to deal with? CJ? Why? Has the most information. So, if I know that we have broth and rice and a total, can I figure out my total? Yeah. We have 3 3/4 and another 3/4. Now make this easy. Break up this 3/4. Make this 1/4 and then 1/2. Because to get 3/4 of a cup, I could have a half and another 1/4. So I could add a 1/4 to my 3 3/4 and make that 4. And this comes out to be 4 1/2 cups.
Whoa! Holy grail!
Now we know that these all have to be consistent. Not the same amount, but the same ratio. If I use 2 parts rice and 1 part broth, I need to keep that the same the whole time. Now that probably wouldn't work because that'd be a lot of rice. But can I set up a comparison of broth to rice? Could I figure out how these compare with each other?
Ooh.
Abby?
Take out the 3 in there.
So I can't just take it out. That would be breaking mathematical rules.
Okay. I don't know.
Can I compare? How do we compare 2 values? What have we been doing lately that would let me compare broth amount to rice amount? Shane, you had your hand up. We don't even have to do that yet. Andrew? We can do a ratio, which will lead me to division. So, if I set up my broth amount, now again, let's use impropers. 3 times 4 gives me 12, plus 3 more gives me 15 fourths, divided by 3 fourths, which I keep change flip. I can cross cancel actually here. And then I'm going to ignore the other cross reduction that I could do, because this is going to get fairly easy. I get 15 over 3, because these would both actually turn into 1s. And that gives me 3 compared to 1, or just 3. So what's that really tell me? If I was comparing broth to rice, what's that really tell me? Colin?
Oh, I was going to say 15 thirds.
Sorry, yeah, my apologies. Got tripped up in my head.
But you could
Change that on your paper, please. I know I could cross reduce 15 and 3. I said I was skipping the other cross reduction because we've done so much. So if you want to do it, that's fine. Colin?
You could divide 15 divided by 3, and then 3 divided by 3 divided by 1.
I agree. I said I was skipping that. I love that you guys are thinking through that now. I was just trying to show only a cross canceling and then just not show anything else to confuse people. But what does this, and when this reduces, it's really 5 compared to 1. What does that tell me about my recipe? Andrew?
Okay, so every 5 broth cups equals 1 rice cup.
Yeah, every 5 broth cups, I will need 1 rice cup, or what this really tells me is broth is, anyone finish this for me?
5.
Broth is 5 times
4.5.
your rice. Broth will be 5 times your amount of rice. So if you use 2 cups of rice, 2 cups of rice, how much broth? 10, because you just multiply by 5. So, if I know that this is 5 times the amount of rice that I use, how do I get my amount of rice? Justin?
5 times 178.
So will this number be bigger than this number?
No, you divide.
Ah, we got to divide my 1 and 7/8. So let's make that improper.
Which is 15.
15 divided by 5, which really turns into multiplication by a fifth. Because when you divide something in 5 pieces, each piece is a fifth. So we get 15/8 times 1/5. Here we can cross reduce, as I know you guys would yell at me now if I don't.
I know.
What can 5 and 15 cross reduce by? 5, so this becomes 3, this becomes 1.
And I know what that is.
I get 3/8, and that's it. So I use 3/8. Now again, to figure out my total, break this up. Take 1 of your 8ths and turn this into a total 2. How many 8ths do you have left over? Have you used 1 of them to pull over here? We have 2 8ths left over, so this becomes 2 and 1/4, because 2 8ths is really 1/4. So now we know to go from rice to broth, if we went this direction, we had to divide. So now going the opposite direction, now we can actually multiply. So actually, check this out. 1 and 7/8, 1 and 7/8. I can really use that 15/8, but now it's 15/8 times the 5.
It would just be the reciprocal.
It will not just be the reciprocal because I did not turn around the whole ratio. So 5 times 15, 5 times 10 is 50. 5 times 5 is 25. So I get 75 over 8.
Oh, yeah. 75.
Yeah, how many 8s fit into 75?
9.
I just thought it
9 and 3 8.
What is 8, 9, or 8 times 9?
I know the answer.
8 times 9 is 72. So this is going to be 9
And
and 3
3 8.
8s. So this batch is a bigger batch.
How much bigger?
Again, break up your values. Take one of these 3 8s, add it over here to make this a total 2. So then I have a 2 here, a 9 here that makes me 11, and then 2 8s left over. So I get 11 and 1/4.
Wait, that kind of confuses me. How do you get 11 as a whole?
So I took 3 8s and I made it 2 8s and 1 8. Because 3 8s is 2 8s and 1 8. I then took this 1 8 and added it here to make 2. Does that make sense? So then I had 2 plus 9 and 2 8s.
So you add the numerator by the whole.
I could make them both improper and just add them that way if I wanted. If you want a way that will work easier, like, not necessarily easier, it depends on your brain, but if you want a way that will work no matter what, make them improper, check that your denominators match, add them.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Now here's the tough part. Cook D. The only thing I know is total. Is there a way that I can derive either my broth or my rice out of my total, and we can actually go all the way back to the first problem we solved? Justin? Ooh, really close. How many parts are in this soup? If we think way back to the first problem we solved, if broth is going to be 5 times your amount of rice, we said if we have 1 cup of rice, how many cups of broth? 5. So how many total cups would be in your soup? 6. Our soup has 6 parts. 5 parts of broth, 1 part of rice. So if it has 6 parts total, hang on to it. You're being really off the wall today. Trying to ignore it, but I got to talk to everybody, not just you. If my soup has 6 parts total, how does this recipe compare? Compared to 6 cups total, how's 18 compared to 6? Shane? We would want to multiply to go from 6 to 18. So if this right here tells me that my soup has 6 parts, 5 parts broth, 1 part rice, then this batch is a triple batch. Because the standard batch has 6 parts. 5 parts broth, 1 part rice. C almost always means cups. So my 6 parts was 5 cups broth, 1 cup rice. If I had 18 parts, I tripled the total. So what should I do to my broth and my rice? Triple them. And I just get 15 and 3. And it still holds true that my broth is 5 times my amount of rice. Any questions on that? Yeah, like a jambalaya. Dude, you're missing out. Jambalaya is like chicken and sausage and veggies and rice. It's awesome.
Isn't that like rice soup?
There's a bunch else in it and spices and stuff. We made jambalaya last time I went camping in a Dutch oven. Let's talk about any questions from the homework. So, obviously 1-5 was last night, but do we have any questions from any of the homework assignments? Anything that you've been struggling with as you work through the homework? Reminder, I have 2 ed puzzles. I know I already said this today. Right? Ooh, that's not good.
Oh, just refresh. I did that. It did the same thing, and then I refreshed it. You have to log out of it and re-log in.
There we go. So, I got 2 up here. My curb is leaking. Literally, the curb in front of my house was leaking. That crack right there. And the train one that I forget if I advertised yesterday, but I got stuck by a train. So please work through these. Again, I get all of the data. I will start to bug you if you don't work through these at all. But when you get a chance, this is good practice for the mastery. So check out those 2 ed puzzles as you have a chance. And they're really short. This is 19 seconds. The other one's like 33. So come on, it takes like 2 minutes to work through it. Any questions from any of the homework? If not, we can finish the last problem from the notes, but I was figuring there'd probably be some questions.
I did have one.
On 1-2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
After class, can you explain how extensions work? Oh yeah, because this is our first day for like actually doing breaks.
We'll probably talk to everybody at the beginning of extensions today. It's a lot like AO. Except you then have the opportunity to go to clubs and other things, so if you're a master, then you just get approval and then you go. So, what was your question, Lily?
It was like, I think it was lower. I think it was the one after this. Yeah, that one was pretty hard.
So, what does it mean to empathize? What is empathy? Yeah. Yeah, when you can, like, relate to somebody. Like, I can have sympathy for you and just feel bad that something bad happened, but I can have empathy for you and say, I've been through that same situation. So empathy is where, like, you empathize with somebody. Mr. Estes has gone through having to buy a lot of diapers for his kids. I have not. I can have sympathy for Mr. Cabilo, but I cannot have empathy because I've not experienced that. So Mr. Estes empathizes with all the diapers that Mr. Cabilo has to buy. So he decides to buy a package of 144 diapers off Amazon. This is a real price. When I write these problems, I pull real data. $43.69. If you ever want to know why I'm waiting to have a kid, money's a big reason. So calculate the unit rate that will tell us the cost per diaper. That tells me how to set this up. I want to take cost per amount of diapers, and essentially all I have to do is do that division. That's 43.96. Sorry, 69. Divided by 144. 0.3034. As money, I have to stop 2 decimal places in. Diapers. In that pack, I forget if they were Pampers or Loves, that pack of diapers, you're paying about 30 cents for every diaper.
I chose 0.0. I chose 0.30.
This is calling in? Sweaters. So I wrote these about your guys' knitting. Now that and I actually talked to Mrs. Cullinan about this, about a knitting project she was doing. This is real information. Yes, I'm a nerd. Mrs. Cullinan has finished all of these sweaters, and that relates to question 10. She realizes that in total she's used 13,800 meters of yarn for 5 sweaters, which each used 12 balls of yarn. What is the unit rate in meters per sweater? So I threw extra numbers in here that you don't need. That's what we call distractors. And there are a lot of them in state tests. So, all I care about is meters, sweaters. How many meters total? How many meters total?
13,800. Wait,
How many sweaters total?
5. So 12 is your distraction number.
So, 12 is a distractor, as well as talking about, like, worrying about the previous question and the balls of yarn and that sort of stuff. So, if I do 13,000 divided by 5, it means each sweater...
Is 227. I did something else, but I got the right answer. I did 12 times 5, which is 16. And I think I did 13.
You probably still divided by
I did.
12 at one
I
point.
divided by.
So you probably undid whatever you did.
Yeah, so I got the right answer.
Anything else? All right, we're a minute early, but get out of here, guys. Have a great day. Mastery is tomorrow. Get your homework finished.
I got to do 5 more things.
There's no new homework. Just get your homework finished. That was yesterday, yeah. It's up now. I put it up there a second ago.
School other